I didn't know much about the city of Sarajevo. If I had known about its dark past, then maybe I wouldn't have visited its abandoned places in the middle of the night. We were fresh out of college and hiking through Europe. My dad met my mom while on a similar trip with his buddies, and part of me believes they were hoping the same would happen for me. I didn't share in that hope. I just wanted to have a good time while seeing the countryside before trying to find my way in the corporate world. One of the last legs of our trip took us through Sarajevo, the capital city of Bosnia-Herzegovina. After a washout of a day, me and my buddy settled into a booth at a local bar. A pretty bartender named Alina took our orders. By this point in our journey, I wasn't surprised she spoke English. Pretty much everywhere we went, there was someone, especially in the touristy areas. While making small talk with Alina, I noticed a picture of the giant Olympic torch hanging above the bar, surrounded by crowds of people. When I asked her about it, she explained in an admittedly cute accent that Sarajevo hosted the Winter Games in the 1980s, but the venues are just abandoned ruins now. At that point, my buddy perked up. He loved to explore abandoned buildings. He asked if we could see them, which caught Alina off guard. She didn't see why anyone would want to see such places, and for a moment I thought I detected a hint of fear in her expression. My buddy begged her to take us to the Olympic ruins, going on about how we were only in town for one night and how we hadn't got to see much because of the rain. Pursing her lips, she remained apprehensive until my buddy pulled out his wallet. $50 goes a long way in certain places in the world. Alina agreed to take us after her shift ended. Though I didn't mention it to my buddy, I had a bad feeling about the whole thing. I wish I'd listened to my gut. True to her word, Alina and one of her friends met us outside the bar later that night. They hailed us a cab, said something to the driver in Serbian, and we departed. Though the rain had mostly let up, a mist shrouded the streetlights, which added to the eeriness of the already dark night. We drove for about a half hour or so into the mountainous part of the city. I tried to ease the awkward tension with the two women by dropping a few jokes, but none of them landed. For my self-esteem, let's just say they were lost in translation. Eventually, we reached a part of the city where the streetlights seemed to dim, as if the dark was more penetrating there. The cab rolled to a stop, and the four of us climbed out. Alina instructed the cabbie to wait for us, and then we set off. As we walked along a stone wall, I got the distinct impression we were being watched. Goosebumps sprouted up on my arms. I stuck my hands in my pockets in an attempt to seem nonchalant. The mist was thick and noticeably cooler. Alina shivered next to me. I offered my hoodie, which she accepted with a small smile. That, I won't lie, made me feel kind of good. It wasn't enough, however, to dispel the unease stirring in my stomach. We passed through a gap in the stone wall into a large open field that sloped upward. An odd-shaped structure protruded from the earth near the top of the hill, its edifice barely visible in the gloom. Beyond it was a wall of foreboding pine trees. I peered at them for a moment, and in a deeply unsettling way, I felt as if they were peering back. Alina motioned toward the structure, explaining that what we were looking at was a podium where the winning athletes would receive their medals. If she knew what else happened there, she kept it to herself. My buddy turned on his flashlight and hurried up the slope. As he got closer, the finer details of the structure came into focus. I could see the Olympic rings, broken and faded by time, directly behind a stone podium. My buddy climbed to the highest level of the podium and thrust his hands in the air in mock celebration, as if he had just received a gold medal. The three of us joined in, clapping, until my buddy suddenly went quiet and looked over his shoulder as if he'd heard something. His curiosity piqued. He hopped off the podium and examined something with his flashlight before he ventured out of our view. A couple of seconds later, a desperate cry rang out from behind the structure. My buddy was in trouble. Adrenaline flooding in, I sprinted the rest of the way up to the structure. Just as I reached the podium, my buddy stumbled out from behind one of the walls holding the side of his head. A line of blood drained down his neck from his left ear. He was soon followed by a group of armed men, the bottom half of their faces hidden by cloth. I raised my arms instinctively. They yelled commands in a language I didn't understand. Alina stopped in her tracks behind me and raised her arms as well, her body trembling. The men continued yelling. "They want everything," Alina translated. Money, your phones, jewelry, everything. I began digging in my pockets. I dropped my phone on the ground, along with my wallet. One of the men gestured to Alina and her friend as he yelled a command that must have been to run, because that's what they did. A moment later, the same man pulled out a gun. He cocked it. "Please, please," I begged. "Just let us go." The man raised the gun toward me and said something I didn't understand. I swallowed hard and pinched my eyes shut. And at that moment, something happened that I can't explain to this day. A woman's scream split the misty air, followed by another and another. They echoed out from all directions. Then the tops of the pine trees began to sway back and forth like they were caught by a sudden storm. I could hear the groaning and cracking of their branches as if the trees were waking up after a long slumber. The men began shouting to one another, their eyes wide with fear and confusion, repeating a word. "Duh." One of them peeled off, hurrying down the slope. Another joined him. Soon they were all gone, save one, the man with the gun. But his hand was shaking, and he soon lost resolve. Letting out some kind of curse, he lowered his gun and took off in the direction of the others. When they were gone, the stillness of the night returned, and I finally exhaled. Still in a state of shock myself, I picked up my things, and my buddy and I hobbled down to where Alina and her friend were waiting. Our cab and the driver were long gone, which meant that he was probably in on the plot to rob and likely murder us. Alina called another friend, who arrived an hour or so later to pick us up. It was when we were saying our goodbyes that I finally asked Alina what the word "duh" meant. Flashing a grave expression, she said, "It means ghost." And after doing some research later while we waited at the airport to catch a flight home, I learned the truth about the Olympic ruins we visited. It was true that the podium had once been used to award medals, but during the civil war that ravaged Sarajevo from 1992 to 1995, it was the site of many public executions. Thank you guys all for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like this story, I'll have more like it coming soon. And if you like to laugh, check out my shorts. Thanks for watching. God bless.